How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Emerald City Hockey post-game live. RJ, that was a big win for the Kraken. I know, this time of year, draft position, all of that kind of stuff, but it's been pretty great to see this team kind of score at will here late in the season.
Yeah, and it certainly feels like the last two games they have scored at will. I mean, you can point to the opposing defense, the opposing goaltending a little bit, but it's just nice to see pucks going in for guys, especially someone like Jared McCann, who I'm sure we'll talk about plenty tonight, getting a pair of goals in this one, hitting the 20 goal mark, which feels weird to say it, but it was actually kind of a question mark for him whether he would get there or not. But he does pretty comfortably, and it's good for him after the season that he's had to finally see some pucks go in for him.
Definitely. And trending towards that 60-point mark as well now for him. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those, like, it's been a rough year. Look, he's done so much for this franchise. To have one off year in 4 seasons is not the worst thing in the world. It's just, this is a team that kind of needs everybody who has the potential to be a 20-goal scorer to be a 20-goal scorer for it. Not a lot of guys kind of have that ability on this team, but it was nice to see that for him. I know a lot of people were excited about that. Jaden Schwartz picks up another one, climbs to 24 on the year. Chandler Stevenson gets another one, and then Berkey, RJ. Berkey is really like turned it on here post-trade deadline.
Yeah, he is playing legitimately well. He's producing points. I think if you put the cutoff at the right spot for him, he's over a point per game, I think in his last, 9 or so for Andre Burkovsky. And he just looks dynamic again. For the first time in a long while, we've seen he looks dynamic kind of game in, game out. And he'll especially benefit in a game like this where, the Sharks are not the best team defensively. You're going to have a little more time and space, but that's really going to benefit his vision, his skating, and everything he does. I think even in the third period, there was a moment that stood out to me. It was near the offensive blue line where there was a puck that kind of got sent out, and he did like a full 360 spin, all while maintaining control of the puck and getting the zone entry. Like, that kind of stuff is just ridiculous. And it's not the stuff we've seen from him really most of the time over the last year and a half.
No, it really feels like he just has his like swagger back. Right? Like, he just kind of has the it factor again that we really haven't seen since that first half of the season that he joined the Seattle Kraken back in year 2. And so it's just really cool to see him have that ability again, have his playmaking, his vision, his ability to score as well in that middle 6. Just kind of talking about Kraken only going to have maybe 3 20-goal scorers probably this year. To have somebody who can produce like that in the middle 6 is important for a team like this. It'd be important for them next year. Hopefully he's able to carry it over into next season and what they're going to hope to do next year. Before we go into chat here, RJ, we've of course got to thank our wonderful sponsor, Queen Anne Beer Hall, for sponsoring the podcast each and every post game. It was so much fun doing the Moss Bay Hall watch party. Haven't really had a ton of time to talk about it other than just what I was able to join you for on the last post game. But I just want to reiterate again, thanks to everybody who came out, and thanks to Moss Bay Hall for hosting. Incredibly gracious host. Love all the signage for the watch party around the restaurant there, and then also again one more time, those gift buckets were incredible.
Bucket. Again, that was a surprise to us too. They told us they'd have stuff, but they didn't tell us exactly what. I kind of see why they left a surprise for us, because that definitely exceeded our expectations.
Oh, definitely. And it made it so that like a lot of people were able to get stuff as well for coming out to the watch party. And that's definitely a positive always. So really appreciate that. Really appreciate everything that Queen Anne Beer Hall's done for us. Looking over at the chat here, B kicking us off. Oh, I wanted that Hattie for Cantor so bad. And Lindsay followed it up. Jared McCann is back, baby. And then B so happy he had a multi-goal game. Let's go, Jared McCann. I mean, it is nice to see him kind of get back at it. I think, with this one, it's great to see him have that scoring touch, RJ, but I think it was really interesting in how he scored both of these goals too, right? Because I think that says a lot about him building back some of his confidence, because on that first goal, he gets that kind of nice feed from Andre Burakovsky. It comes in hot. It's a little tough for him to handle. Jared McCann sticks with it, RJ, is able to get a handle on the puck, and then is able to beat Georgiev. I thought that was really impressive, just kind of staying with a play and being able to make something happen there. That I just, can't take moments like that for granted. That's something that just good players do, smart players do. And then on the second goal for Jared McCann, the beautiful feed from Shane Wright, the beautiful kind of pick by Shane Wright to open up the space for Jared McCann, and then Jared McCann showing off kind of his sniping ability as he's able just to pick apart the goaltender there for the second goal. They were both like kind of, one was more instinctual, one was more, picking apart the goaltender. It was just nice to see him kind of score in two different ways.
Yeah, good analysis, Ben. I was going to say, leave some for me. Go take a drink of water or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. Let me talk about this a little bit. But I love seeing that from Jared McCann, especially on that first goal where he kind of bobbles the puck initially off that pass. And that's the kind of play that, for a guy who's been snake bitten most of the year, early season Jared McCann was good. Mid-season Jared McCann, that puck is just riding off his stick and going into the corner. He's not able to finish on a play like that, but he is able to bury it. And then, his second goal too, the pinpoint accuracy on that shot. He just makes Romanov look kind of silly there because he doesn't fully go down, but he brings the one pad down, brings the blocker over, and McCann hits the exact perfect spot in between the pad and the blocker, off the post and in. That the kind of accuracy required for that. Very few guys can put a puck right in that spot, but Jared McCann is one of them.
Yeah, no, he was just fantastic game from him. Love seeing that from him. One of the many, it seemed like, Kraken fans in the building. He basically covered the price of admission for you right there with those plays. It was really dope to see that. Mason, besides the ending becoming a mess, that was a super fun game. Wins like that I can manage to support. Gives good momentum going into next season. Berkey is the key to McCann's success. Is that the case, RJ? We just talked about Jared McCann, what he was able to do. Berkey obviously, helped make that first goal happen. I don't know. I think Shane Wright really helped make that second goal happen. I think Jared McCann, get this, RJ, good player plays better with other good players.
What a concept. It's something that we haven't really thought of a whole lot covering the Kraken, just given, I don't know. But I think, Berkey playing the way that he is right now is certainly helping Jared McCann. Don't leave Shane Wright out of this, as you brought him up, because I think Shane is driving quite a bit of this as well. And then I think you could flip it too. I think having Jared McCann playing the way he is helping Andre Burkovsky. And you see that on Berkey's goal too, where you have McCann, they set up the cycle, McCann circles around the net, makes that little drop past Adam Larson. And I want to credit Burkovsky there, finding the soft spot in the Sharks defense. But, that's McCann kind of keeping his head up, making the play, getting the cycle going that starts it all off.
Yeah, it is. So many of these goals, and I know, Stratic's kind of up next, not asking the question yet, but I know the question will be coming about, kind of favorite goals. And as much as I want to say the second Jared McCann goal, just because I love the sweet little nonchalant drop pass from Shane Wright and then taking out the defenseman to give Jared McCann some more time, that Berkey goal and just how all three of those players played, like that is, the most textbook of all of these goals as far as manufacturing a scoring opportunity for yourself. And, this team in particular needing to do that more often and more frequently. And so, we'll kind of jump the gun here. Favorite goal of the evening, I'm giving it to the Berkey goal because of what you just talked about, how it developed off the cycle and how all three of those players kind of performed and did their jobs to create that great scoring chance, and then good on Berkey for burying it.
Yeah, and sorry everybody, but I have to agree with you, Dylan. I know there's a lot of goals to go around, and I'd love to just disagree with you for the principle of it, but I really can't pick any goal besides that one, and for the reason you said, that it's really manufacturing a goal. All the other goals, you can kind of point to something where you had the weird, like, Berkey broken stick, so the Sharks aren't back there on the first one, and so that plays a bit of a role where you're not really manufacturing it. You got a little lucky there, but you're also good. On the Stevenson goal, I think definitely luck plus good on that one with the broken stick for Ferraro. The Schwartz one, it was a bomb of a shot, but like Georgiev's probably got to have that. And then, on the McCann one, that is just, that's the other contender, is the second McCann goal, where it's just a really good shooter with a really good shot, but I got to go the Berkey one.
Yeah, it was just fantastic. And then Striatic's actual comment here, maybe need to scale down the dignity, scale up the tanking. Don't hurt me. This was, yet another night where the Kraken did have an opportunity if they were to lose this one to ascend the draft order, if you will, or at least the lottery odds there. It really just feels like RJ right now, the way this team is playing, what they're able to do. I think on nights in which they're playing playoff teams, we're probably going to see those playoff teams kind of pull ahead maybe against the Kraken. They're all gearing up for their postseason runs. They're really dialing things in. They're really hitting their stride, or at least attempting to. And I just don't know that the Kraken can compete skill-wise all the time with those teams. But on nights like tonight against teams like San Jose, I think Utah's going to be an interesting game kind of coming up. But we saw it against Vancouver, another team that's struggling. When the Kraken are on and they're playing and they can, do things like manufacture the scoring chances for themselves or get some puck luck, they're going to be able to take care of business in those games. And I do think that that's going to kind of even out down the stretch here. And I think we're going to see that, the tank is probably not going to result in a top or bottom four finish, I should say.
Yeah, I've kind of given up on that at this point. And I don't know that it might be hard to get points off of, say, Vegas, St. Louis, the way they're playing right now. Those games might not look as good as this one, but I think it was another, opportunity. You could say, I guess they could move up by winning. They do move down a couple spots or two, because you have Boston and Philly now passing them as well tonight. But I'm sorry, Dylan. This might be an unpopular opinion here, and I will not harp on it. I will just say it once right now, because this is what I believe about this game. Personally, I don't think the Kraken actually played all that well in this one. I mean, you look at the shot quality for most of this game, and the Sharks had a pretty substantial lead. I think it was fantastic goaltending by Joey Daccord. Yet again, I think he deserves a ton of props. It's going to get lost in a 5-1 win, just like it kind of got lost in the 5-0 win against Vancouver. But Joey Daccord, another excellent game from him tonight. And frankly, some pretty poor goaltending from San Jose. I mean, we know Georgiev's had a rough season. I felt bad for him. I really felt bad for him when on that camera shot, just zooming in of him on the bench, just looking so down after getting pulled from the game. But honestly, I feel like this was not one of the Kraken's better games this season. They were just fortunate to be playing against the Sharks team. And so it's kind of, as someone posted on the Discord, it's kind of the opposite what you want at if your team tank, because I'm totally fine. I mean, ideally you want them to play well, but lose. That's the ultimate team tank thing. I felt like they played poorly, but won in this one. And I'm not going to harp on it because I don't want to ruin the vibes for everybody, but I have to give what I feel is my honest assessment here.
I will definitely agree with you through the first probably 2 periods of this one. And I do think that there is an element of, like, if you look at that first period, the Sharks' forecheck was super aggressive. It was doing a lot to disrupt what the Kraken wanted to do as far as getting their breakouts. So much of what this team wants to be for the Seattle Kraken is a team that is able to attack, starting with those breakouts, getting speed up the ice. I mean, the coaching staff just does not stop talking about it, right? Every time we talk to Dan Bylsma, it feels like at some point he mentions the word breakouts. We will see it every practice, right? Yesterday morning, right? They're practicing at KCI. What are they working on? They're working on those breakouts, getting up the ice with speed. And the Sharks did a great job of forechecking and taking away those opportunities for the Seattle Kraken. Certainly in the first period, I think that extended into the second until you get really the Jaden Schwartz and Jared McCann goals. I really do feel like those goals kind of broke the spirit of the Sharks. And that's when you see the shot count for the Kraken really start to ramp up, and you see the Kraken able to get up the ice more. You're starting to see the Kraken attack with more members off of each and every individual rush. So I do think, like, I am with you in the sense that I feel like the Sharks in a lot of ways were outplaying the Kraken. The Kraken were able to kind of take advantage of some misfortune for the Sharks there, take advantage of some legit bad goaltending on the Sharks' part as well, and then just kind of put the Sharks in a spot where they kind of gave up on that midway through the game.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. Basically, I don't want to take anything away from the Kraken here. I just think it's important to look at it.
They took advantage of the opportunities that they could.
Yeah, and this is and I've said this before this season too. Yeah, like the Sharks are a bad team. No one's arguing with that. and you should beat a bad team 5-1 or thereabouts. So the Kraken did.
Yeah. Edward with the super chat. Is it me, or has the Kraken play post deadline evaporated a lot of the negative storylines around the team? I'm digging the late season vibes. It does feel like that has been the case here, RJ. I mean, we've talked about Berkey earlier. I mean, he's been one of those kind of negative storylines that has kind of flipped around. The ability to score, more and more people are talking about that. Jared McCann has started to get going. Shane Wright, because the Chandler Stevenson injury, was able to move up the lineup and have some time in the top 6. So that storyline was good. Yanni Newman, I think, coming in because spots opened up because you moved so many players out. And then everything that Yanni Newman's been able to do has added to the positive messaging. I don't think it's just you, Edward. And again, appreciate the super chat. I just think that a lot of things were able to either naturally correct themselves or opportunities were able to open up because of what happened at the trade deadline that has put guys in better spots now. And so it's just kind of changed how we're perceiving them.
Yeah. And I think, look, especially from perspective, I think a lot of fans, probably a lot of people in chat, it was a rough season for us, especially through December, January. I think it was disappointing in a lot of different ways leading up to the trade deadline. I think a lot of people just wanted something positive to hold on to. I mean, Dylan, I remember doing the post games with you in late December, January, and it was rough, right? We were just looking for something positive, and we really couldn't come up with a whole lot. And now seeing, at least like, look, Berkey's going, the young guys are going, Shane Wright's going. There are positive things you can look at. And I just think, as far as the storylines around the team, I think everybody was just, or not everybody, but a lot of people were just really hoping for some positivity. And for a lot of the season, there was none. I couldn't find anything. After the games, we were kind of stumped on that. But now there is. Now you can see it every game. There's something positive to point to.
There is. No, there is. And it's been, a lot more fun to do things like these post games because there are those positive things to point to. And it's not just those teams kind of doing things like that.
Now, hey, Dylan, I'm really sorry to do this to you. I have to get going for a second. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Something just came up, but can you hold it down?
Yeah, we'll do.
All right.
Go.
Thank you.
Take
Sorry
care of
about
it.
that, Dylan. Sorry, everybody.
No worries. Hope everything's okay there. Just to stick on like the Berkey train for a sec, I'm going to jump ahead a couple comments and talk about this. Kaylin, did Berkey come back out after taking the hit? I don't know. I mean, the game, it was kind of late there. Let me see if ice time would be an indication of this. 15-19, that's in line with what he should be getting based on the line and who he was with. So I don't know specifically. It looks like he maybe missed like one shift there. And then Lindsay, why does Berkey look so good lately? I'm normally pretty hard on the dude, but he's been great recently. I have two kind of theories, and I was hoping RJ would be here to bounce these off of him, but I think it's one of two things realistically, kind of looking at the overall situation and the fact that specifically Berkey's play has picked up post trade deadline here. I think the first reason could be that, look, Yanni Newman gets called up post deadline, looks good, sticks with the team. Here's a young player coming into the lineup, asserting himself, playing well, taking a job, so to speak. Obviously, the job was kind of vacated by Oliver Bjorkstrand being traded to Tampa Bay, but it's just like another reminder, and it's a message from the front office that, hey, we've got young guys coming. You vets on this team, Berkey included, need to pick it up. Otherwise, we're going to find somebody to replace you with, or you're going to get moved down the lineup and you're just going to have to deal with that. And you're going to have to see a 20-year-old going out there and playing better than you. Do you want that to happen? Right. And that kind of elevating what some of the veteran players are doing. The other one is, Berkey maybe looks at Oliver Bjorkstrand, player pretty similar to him as far as skill set, what they're, if they're firing at 100%, what level of production they're going to bring to an NHL lineup, right? They're going to be good middle six wingers, good on the power play, but that's kind of like their cap. They're not really first line guys, Berkey or Bjorkstrand. And he looks at Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Oliver Bjorkstrand gets moved to a very good Tampa Bay team. He's going to be on a playoff roster. He's going to be on a team that has aspirations to go win a Stanley Cup. He's playing with players like Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point. He's playing with these great players. He's able to produce, put up good numbers. And Berkey goes, hey, you know what? I want that for myself. And I think the Kraken did probably try to move Berkey, and everybody probably said, hey, he's just not playing good enough for us to trade for him. I'm sure Berkey got that memo down the line as well. And this is Berkey going, hey, I better step up my game, because if I want to be able to go to a team that's going to be going to the playoffs and have Stanley Cup aspirations and to play with players like a Nikita Kucherov or a Braden Point, I need to be playing better so that those teams want me. And, that's maybe not like the ultimate team first attitude that everybody would want all of their players to have, but I think it's a very realistic attitude for a professional athlete to have. And for somebody who has been a part of, cup winning teams before, has been a part of teams that have gone on long playoff runs, somebody who's going to want to compete in those situations come playoff time, it's a very reasonable kind of mentality for a guy like that to have, is to want to be a part of teams that have those high skill players, that have those opportunities. And right now the Kraken haven't been that, and so I'm sure there's a lot of guys in the locker room that probably look around the league and are envious of situations that other guys are in. And so I do wonder if maybe that's had a part in some of this. Was Berkey's looking and like, hey, that's a great opportunity, I wish that was me. Oh, it's because nobody wanted me because I'm not playing well right now, then I better start playing well so that I do have value out there. I don't know that to be the case, but knowing athletes and their mindsets and the way that they think and the situation around him going into the deadline, where it did sound like the Kraken were shopping him and just nobody was interested, I do think that it's possible that that's what's kind of going on with Berkey. And maybe it's a combination of the two things. It's seeing young players like Yanni Newman come into the lineup, not wanting to lose a spot in the lineup to a young guy, not wanting, Ryan Winterton to take his job or something like that, and he's elevating his game. Could also just be because he wants to be playing better so that he's perceived as a better player again. I'm sure it was a hit to the ego. If you're being shopped by a GM and nobody wants you, that can't feel good. So I do think that there's maybe something like that going on. Virginia, what did Alexiak do? So I saw this a lot on the Discord right there at the end of the game. Jamie Alexiak gets a game misconduct at the end there, presumably for the hit on Mario Ferraro. The kind of hit from behind on Ferraro. Now, I don't think that the hit was bad at all. I don't think Ferraro thought the hit was bad at all, because he just pops up and skates away. He doesn't care that the hit happens. What went down there at the end with not just Jamie Alexiak, but also with John Hayden, and all of the kind of penalties that kind of get dished out there with both Hayden and the Shark getting tossed from the game, and just getting them out of there. That's just the refs in a 5-1 blowout win with 34 seconds left on the clock, managing the game. It is just pure and simple game management. That's all that's going on by the refs there. They don't necessarily think that Jamie Alexiak has done anything warranting a game misconduct, but what they do know is this is a 5-1 game. This situation, there's already a fight. There was already a big scrum. This is this has the potential to turn into a dangerous and or long drawn out, guys are taking runs at Jamie Alexiak, and this game is just kind of not going to end. It has the potential to become dangerous because the game is over. The Sharks have nothing to lose. They could just go out there and try to send a message. And it's the refs removing Alexiak in the only way that they can, right? They can't just go over to Dan Bilesma and be like, hey, don't play this guy for the last 34 seconds, please. We'd like it if nothing crazy happened here. The refs taking charge in the only manner in which they have available to them. Take Jamie Alexiak out of that game. Just remove the piece that could potentially become an instigator, even though Alexiak's not going to do it himself, but the Sharks might go after him. They get him out of there. They don't have to worry about it. That's why they toss both guys out of the face-off that starts after that, right? Just they start jawing at each other. Get him out of there. We just don't want to deal with this. There's 34 seconds left. The Sharks aren't winning this game. Can we please just move on, finish this game, and all go home? And I have zero issue with what the refs are doing there. It's pure and simple game management. It's how you keep dangerous situations from forming, because in the past in the NHL, in these situations, you would have Sharks taking dangerous runs at a player like Jamie Alexiak. And so in a lot of ways, you're giving him the misconduct to also protect himself. I don't know that in today's NHL that happens as much, but it's a way of thinking that has been developed over the long history of the NHL. And so that's what's going on there. I genuinely do not think Alexiak did anything to earn the misconduct. I think it's just the refs taking care of the game. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that happening. And I had talked with RJ about it before we hopped on, and he agrees. He thinks that it's just game management, and that's all that's going on there, and that's all it is. And it's just the way things go. Just unfortunately. So that's that's why. And Rockton, nobody wants a piece of Hayden. We need him to protect Berkeley Kton when he comes up. Yeah, Jeremy robbed of a Hayden fight again. It's the same thing. They just didn't want stuff to kind of go downhill. Don't want dangerous situations to develop. All of that kind of stuff. It is just strictly game management there. Mason, refs didn't want the San Jose fans to have to watch the beatdown that was coming. Yeah, it was going to be a pretty rough fight there. So again, you're removing John Hayden to protect the Sharks in a way. There we go. Terrible Lotus, the whole team has turned it on post trade deadline. It seems it really does seem that way. I think that there's certain elements of it that remove certain pressures when you're a seller at the deadline, that just kind of relaxes everybody, puts them in a spot where they're going to kind of play more relaxed, play a little bit easier going, and all of that kind of stuff. Really refocus on themselves. We saw that kind of bump after the Four Nations tournament break as well. I think it's just one of those moments where you can step as a player, you get out of the day-to-day grind mindset of it all, and you're able to take a step back, kind of reflect, reset, and start reintegrating like all of the new lessons from the coaching staff, and kind of replacing those points of emphasis into your game, get rid of some of the bad habits you've been forming over the course of a season, and you're able just to kind of do that. And I think that that's partly what happened. I think, again, it's also the front office this year around this deadline and their actions around it, with Melanson coming in for a game beforehand, Yanni Newman coming up afterwards, sending more of a message of, look, we're committed to trying to win here. We will find the players that are going to do that. You need to step it up if you want to keep having a job at the NHL level. And it's a pretty good motivator when front office does that, right? When they speak that through their actions, it's a pretty good motivator. So I think that that's part of what's going on there. Pablo, hey guys, great game. Way to go Kraken. Even if it's the Sharks, go Kraken, go for sure. Hope you're having a good night, Pablo. Earhead, Team Tank takes a hit, but in other news, how about Kton doing his best Daryl Sittler impression? Berkeley Kton was insane tonight. 7 points as Spokane beats Vancouver to advance to the next round of the WHL playoffs. But yeah, 7-point night, I believe it was, for Berkeley Kton. 2 goals, 5 assists. I think that takes him up to 14 points through the 5 games so far this postseason. It's not bad. It's pretty good. Just saying, pretty good. And then in the battle of the larger Seattle area, we'll call it, although probably anybody up in Everett won't like me, the Silver Tips beat Seattle both last night of the game RJ and I were both at, and then tonight up in Everett. So now Everett is up 3-2 in that series against the Seattle Thunderbirds. And big nights the last night for Julius Miettinen, Kraken prospect, who had 2 goals in the game that we were at. He picked up another one tonight, but Caden Hamill had 1 goal and 3 assists tonight from the blue line for the Everett Silver Tips. So, good going from Kraken prospects all around the WHL right now in all of those series, and it is cool to follow them and great to be at the game. We'll probably talk about it on the deep dive, RJ and I, but it was a ton of fun. That was my first game going down there, seeing the T-Birds, first WHL game actually, and it was just so much fun to see it. The playoff atmosphere was fantastic. Everybody was just doing great. It was really, really fun. Mason, Dylan, did Dylan hit the links today? I did not. I was near a golf course actually for a little while, but I did not play golf today. This is my preferred manner of dress, and the weather up here has finally allowed me to dress like this, and it was nice. But it did celebrate my anniversary today, so that's also partly why I went with the collared shirt here. Just that. Appreciate that. The baby blue Kraken polo is clean. I think so too. I think so too. Robert, if you look at Chandler Stevenson's numbers this year, they're almost exactly like he was with Vegas last year. Yeah, I really think that he's just kind of like this guy. He's doing exactly what you could reasonably expect from him. And that was the big thing for us earlier this season when Chandler Stevenson came in and kind of how he was playing. If you go back to like those early deep dives, early post-game lives, we talked about how Chandler Stevenson really has come as advertised. Through a lot of this season, he has been exactly who he was in Vegas. He's exactly who you could think that he could be. Now, on the positive side, he was able to assimilate into the Kraken and be that right away, which is impressive and not something that everybody's able to do all the time when they join a new team in free agency. It's something that a lot of guys struggle with that first season in a new place. Generally, their numbers take a step back. Chandler Stevenson's hasn't, so that is definitely a positive. The negative comes from the contract, the term, the money on the contract, but especially the term, because this is who he is. He is playing to really the max of his abilities, and he's like a 55 point guy, and you're committing a lot of time when you have so many young centers in the organization like a Shane Wright, Berkeley, Kton, right, Julius Mietinen, all of these guys. They're going to need playing time at some point, and you're bringing in somebody for 7 years who's going to clog up that spot and who's going to play well enough that deserves a roster spot, right? Chandler Stevenson being a 55 point guy, that's worthy of a middle six role on any NHL team. Like, he is good enough to be a middle six center. There's no doubts about that. As down on him as we have been this season, that is something that not a lot of people can be, is a guy who's good on the faceoff dot, can put up 55 points and do all of that stuff. So again, it's just one of those where, because of the situation that brought him to the Kraken, he kind of has to live up to expectations that I just don't know that he can. And that's going to just be kind of a difficult situation, or it's going to lead to the difficult conversations we've had to have around him all season long. And those are going to continue for the life of this contract, for the rest of his time in Seattle. Unfortunately, that's going to be the conversation that has to be had around him. It's not really fair to him because, as you're pointing out, Robert, he is exactly who he has been. This is who Ron Francis could have hoped to be signing, was what we've gotten from Chandler Stevenson this year. And so it's in a lot of ways, I do feel bad for Stevie, just that the situation around it all has to be what it is. And that's unfortunate. Lindsay, the Canner and Shane fist bump at the bench was adorable. So glad the camera captured it. Oh yeah, no, they're so great together. I really like that they've been able to develop this chemistry. And again, that second McCann goal was great work from Matty Beniers there. Byron, Matty looked a little rough against the Celebrini line at times, but that right line was cooking. Plus impromptu ECH party in our section, so that was fun. That is great to hear. Really appreciate that. Really like hearing that. Kat, great win for the Kraken today. Y'all missed a great game between Tips and Birds too. Both Kraken prospects scored tonight. Yes, hope you enjoyed the game, Kat. It was great seeing you yesterday in Kent for the game. In Seattle, we'll say the T-Birds home game. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, definitely recommend going out, checking out WHL game for those in the area that are able to, especially these playoff games. It's a lot of fun. I will say this: if the T-Birds want to get back in the series, try not taking 9 penalties the way you did tonight. Everett, I believe, finished 5 for 9 on the power play, unless things went off the rails. I stopped looking when there was a couple minutes left, unless things like changed at the end there. But Everett was 5 for 9 when there was like 8 minutes left in the game. If the T-Birds want to have a shot, if you're a T-Birds fan out there, tell them to calm it down a little bit, because it's pretty hard to win a game when you're giving up 9 power play opportunities like that. just saying. Jeremy, for how bad the Sharks beat us last time, can't be too upset with the results, right? I mean, the last game in San Jose was brutal. Really, all the games against San Jose this year have felt brutal at times for one reason or another. But it's nice. Historically, the Kraken have struggled in San Jose. It is nice that they got a good game out of it this time. I do think that that's a lot of fun. I do like that. I do like that. Margaret just simmed the lottery on Take a Thought of the Kraken. Got the second pick. I consider that a sign of the tank with dignity is working. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take that all day. Would love if they're able to win one of those lotteries and move into the top two. I think they'd really be able to get a player that could truly, 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 um, you know, uh, help them out and give them a player that, is of that kind of like next level. And I do think that that would be great for them. Jason, to RJ's point, Kraken had a 47 deserve to win on Money Puck and Terrible Lotus. RJ needs a disclaimer sign to hold up each time he says something he thinks people won't like, but only once. Yeah, I that is true. We should make like a little graphic or something I could throw up on stream or something like that for when RJ has one of those moments. That would be fun. That would be fun. And Jenna, they looked really bad sometimes, but they looked really good sometimes. I agree with that. Jenna, at one point in the third, I was screaming at them to get their whatnot together, and they actually did to some extent, enough to make me stop yelling at them. They had their moments in this one, that is for sure. But again, you take a 5-1 victory, right? It's 5-1 victory. Yeah, you got to take it, especially in San Jose, given the history of how this team has played in San Jose. I will take it every day that we can. Kylie, at least the team can score this season versus last. We also have the best goal differential of all the teams out of the West below the wild card, first wild card spot. Again, scoring this year has really not been an issue for the Kraken. They've been able to score like a playoff team this season. I believe every team above them in goals. This is about a week old information, but as of like a week and a half ago, every team above them in goal scoring this season was a playoff team. Kraken, they have been scoring at a good clip. They've gotten the good goaltending from Joey. It's really just been the defense and special teams that has really done them in a lot this season. And so I think if they're able to really put in some work there over the offseason, whether it's tweaking systems and getting better in those areas, or it's tweaking the roster and getting better in those areas, I think if they're able to get consistent goaltending from Joey next year, where he's able to play at a high level and do what he's been doing, and they're able to score enough, which they have done this year, I think that takes them from being a team that's out of it with months of the season left to a team that should be in the conversation late, maybe even get one of those wild card spots. It really has just been defense and special teams that has let them down this year, and that's something that they need to work on there. It's just what they need to do. Slivy here. What a great game. Fun to watch in person. Joey was on fire. Joey had a fantastic game. So fantastic. Like he has all year. Your thoughts on Hayden? He seems a bit of a hothead. Look, that's partly what John Hayden is. I wouldn't necessarily say a hothead, but he's a guy who's going to be, a modern day version of an enforcer, which is, we got to come up with a new term for it, because the guys today that you would call an enforcer, like a John Hayden type, is nothing close to what enforcers were even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But John Hayden is going to be a guy that is, he's a fourth liner. That's his job. His job is to go out there and stir up trouble when he's on the ice. It's to play hard. It's to be a pest. I mean, that is his role. That's the role of most guys on fourth lines around the NHL. When situations like this go down and there are, scuffles and scrums, and you have, one of your teammates get hauled down from behind, he is the kind of guy, and it's his job on this team and on this roster really to be the guy to go and deal with that and to let other teams know that, hey, you can't get away with that against our guys. You can't just kind of do whatever you want against us. And so it's not so much him being a hothead as so much as him doing his job and filling in his role on the team. And every team needs one or two guys that can do that. Go back to this Kraken team a couple seasons ago, right? Or last season. We were begging somebody on this Kraken team to step up and be that guy, because guys were taking runs. I mean, Jared McCann was getting his head slammed into the ice. Vince Dunn and Pospisil just, boarding him in super dangerous ways and injuring him. And just nobody was really doing a good job of kind of sticking up for each other. We wanted them to have a little bit more of that fight to them, that that energy. I know there's a good word for it out there, and it's eluding me. But we wanted more players who were going to be that way, and John Hayden is definitely one of those guys. It is going to be team first for John Hayden each and every time he steps out on the ice, and I take those guys in the locker room. I take those guys out there on the ice, and I think that that's a big thing that he's brought to the Firebirds, and it's something that he's bringing here to the Seattle Kraken as well. Jason, can we just bring up Kton's 14 points in 5 playoff games? Seems all right. Again, Ron's already talking about him getting the 9-game sample at the start of next season. I think he's definitely earning the opportunity for that here so far. Definitely. Anyone else recalling the scene from Little Big League where the player wouldn't play for a kid coach and the kid is like, what's the market for a struggling middle-aged player? And it motivates that player to start trying to up his value to get off the team. There's a good pull there, Jason. That's I think maybe potentially what's going on there. Lindsay, do you think that ease Kton into the NHL at 4C? I think I'd rather see him at wing if that's the long-term plan. I really don't know. I really don't know on that one. It'll be interesting to see. I would put him at wing and have him play higher up in the lineup and give him that opportunity to play with more skilled players. I think that that's just probably better for him, especially over the 9 games. If you really kind of want to see what he can do out there, you're certainly going to still shelter him as he comes into the league. So you're talking third line instead of fourth line, but I do think that it would probably be better to ease him in, given that the 2 limitations around him are size and skating. Put him in spots to succeed. Don't put all the pressures of being a center on him when you're already going to be trying to figure out if he's even ready for this level or not. Let him play on the wing if he's comfortable there and make that move. I just think that that's the way to do it. That being said, so much of the way teams are operating now has been kind of against that. That was historically the way these situations were handled. Guys were put on the wing and then they were allowed to develop that way. Now, more and more, we're seeing teams keep them at their desired position and letting them figure things out from the beginning in that spot. So maybe that's just old school thinking on my part, the idea of moving Kton over to the wing. All right, RJ is ready. I was just waiting for some heads up there, RJ, to get that back in here.
Hey,
Hope
Dylan.
you're doing all right.
Yeah, all good. Sorry, just had to deal with something real quick, but appreciate you holding it down while I was gone.
Yep. I'm trying to think of things that I talked about to maybe get your opinion on. I mean, we were just talking about Berkeley Kton. Do you have thoughts on where in the lineup you'd like to see him next year?
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting situation, right? Because I want to see him at least get a shot in the beginning at kind of a top 6 looking type spot, just to most leverage his skill and everything. Sorry, I didn't hear a whole lot of what you had said about it previously, but I want to see him play with some of the most talented players that the Kraken have, at least to start, even if it's on a part-time thing where you're rotating other guys. You don't want to give him necessarily 20 minutes of ice time to start things off. But yeah, I want to see him play with other talented players. The one trap I don't want to see it fall into is just, getting a 4th line type of role and falling into kind of what Shane Wright did early this season, right? Where he was playing in that bottom 6 role, got that bottom 6 mentality. Shane could at least be good at that because of his frame, his body, his instincts. I don't think Berkeley Kton would be good at that. You just want to make sure to put him in a position to play a skill game and succeed there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure.
On the wing, and also I certainly wouldn't mind on the wing. I know you kind of view him as a center, but it's totally fine to move him to wing early.
Yeah, no, again, teams used to really do that. They seem to be shying away from it now. Don't know what that's about, but I definitely go for that. One of the other things I talked about, RJ, was the idea that the Kraken have trouble scoring, and how this year that hasn't really been as much of a story as it has been last year. And I was just looking it up. Coming into today, the Kraken were 14th in the league in scoring. That's not bad. Again, I'm not saying they've been great this year when it's in terms of scoring, but that's very different than the conversations it felt like we were having last year, where it was like, oh my gosh, game after game, they can't buy a goal.
Cannot put a puck in the net. Yeah. Every single game. And it does feel different in that way. I mean, the Kraken, it does feel sometimes a little feast or famine for them. And we've really seen it in the last 4 games or so, but on balance, they are putting pucks in the net. And I think it really, now is not the time for it, but I think it sets up for some very interesting offseason conversations about, okay, why did the offense improve and what's driving it? And just the fact that the Kraken, I believe after this game, have either the 6th or 7th highest shooting percentage at 5-on-5 in the NHL. And okay, can we explain that? How sustainable is that? And I think, there's good arguments made on both sides, but trying to figure out, okay, how do you keep the goal scoring to be decent and respectable, but fix the defensive issue? I think it's connected with the forward group and the defense. Like, I have my theories, but it'll lead to some interesting conversations this offseason that now is not the best time to get into.
Yeah. But yeah, it is one where it does feel weird. In a Kraken down year, scoring hasn't been the problem. It's like kind of the bottom line, and that's a new experience for us as a group. And but I do think that it's one we're talking about, and I think, doing my math, they should be in 13th at the end of today, given that they scored 5 today. So 13th in the National Hockey League in goals for. Again, it's not like playoff levels, all of that stuff, but it's a far cry from where you were previously.
Yeah. I mean, Dylan, how does this sound to you? Because this is all vibes based, but it just feels like to me like the issue has been kind of scoring when there's resistance. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, they could score against bad teams, they can't score against good teams. But I'm talking about like kind of within a game to game thing, right? When, a goalie is playing hot, like they haven't gotten goalied very often this season, but like when they have, it just feels impossible to beat. Or when they're playing really good defensive teams that are playing well, they cannot buy a goal. It still has those same issues, but it feels like more than other teams when they're playing a game where it's either back and forth or, against the Sharks team where, goals tend to come a little easier. They can put up more goals and on fewer opportunities. Like in this game, they had 4 goals and 12 shots or whatever it was at a point in this game.
Yeah.
Like they can capitalize on that even better than other teams.
I think there's like elements of that, but honestly, I really think it's just, you have to work on scoring on the power play to up those goals into that next tier where you start talking about being a top 10 team in league scoring, because I look at them versus all the other teams in their like area as far as goals for. I've got the league separate, sorted here by goals for, and I look at all the teams above them, and the big difference there is that all of those teams are above 20% on the power play for the most part. There's a couple teams that are kind of around the 18-19% mark where the Kraken are, but a ton of them are well over 20%. And so I think that that's an area for you to improve, is on the special teams front. And then the other thing is, really the only reason you're not higher in the standings is because of all of the teams that are in the top half of the league in goal scoring, the Kraken are the 3rd worst in terms of goals against. You're just allowing too many goals. The defense has been too poor this year. You've had stellar goaltending from Joey Daccord when he's been in net. You haven't gotten great goaltending when he hasn't been in net, and you're not giving him great defense, even when he is in net. I think that's really what it is. Like, from any scoring metric, if I sort it around here, the Kraken should at the very least be in the playoff conversation right now. I really think like the only areas they need to focus on, or what they really should be focusing on, are improving special teams and defense. And then that should get them to that conversation.
Yeah. And the key also, I think, is how do you improve the defense without sacrificing the offense? Because I think improving the defense, especially as we talked about the forwards getting back and supporting the D and all that stuff, there's a trade-off there. If you are trying to jump a little ahead and get some more offense, you're going to be less able to support the defense. And again, I think those things are connected a bit.
Yeah, because they are ahead of playoff teams in goal scoring: New Jersey, Montreal, LA, Ottawa, and Minnesota. The difference is all those teams are just not allowing goals. You know what I mean? Like that's your difference. You're outscoring those playoff teams. That's 5 playoff teams you're outscoring right now. It's just you're allowing too many goals. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think there is still some kind of reprogramming to do after last season, and also just the forward group is generally look. It's you look at the talent there, and it's not the same caliber as the blue line on this team,
right?
And so I think it takes a little bit of kind of mental reprogramming there.
Yeah. And by the way, one of those teams that is outscoring the Kraken, but also allowing more goals than the Kraken, the Buffalo Sabres. So you could probably
you can't shore things up defensively. There's a limit to how far you can go.
Exactly. They're also one of the few teams with a worse power play than the Kraken of all those teams above them. So we was trying to think of a word for John Hayden. What like the modern version of an enforcer is, RJ, in the NHL? Because to call them an enforcer compared to enforcers of the National Hockey League's past, RJ, doesn't feel right, because they're not playing anything like enforcers played, the way they played when we were growing up, and then even before that, right? And so I was trying to think of like a good name. I've got some options here from everybody. Terrible Lotus with bouncer, El Bell with agitator, fusion mix moderator, Terrible Lotus lawyer passing judgment, and then also from Lotus tickler. I don't know that like a John Hayden type.
I wouldn't put Hayden in that category. There are some players that I might, but Hayden is not one of them. Interesting. So I kind of like bouncer, actually.
Bouncer is good. It still implies that like level of physical defense, like protection.
Yeah, exactly. That level of protection. Also, just like, sometimes you look at you like, all right, you're good. No, okay, no, we've got a problem. Like when that something comes up. Whereas because agitator, I feel like that's a separate category and something that existed in the heyday of enforcers as well. I think guys like, Steve Ott is kind of more of a throwback name, but guys who will, their job is not to fight and enforce things. Their job is to get under the opponent's skin. And, I'm sure everybody can think of guys like that. Brad Marchand also, just comes to mind. It's like an agitator, but I wouldn't call him an enforcer. And so I think that's just a separate category. Moderators is funny.
That's good. Very 21st century there.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I think bouncer is probably my favorite of all those.
Yeah. Cat equalizer. That's pretty good too. That is a good one. Jenna, you should have heard Lars on Kraken this morning talk about how important he is to the team and dressing room. He really laid it on thick about the difference Hayden has made and how they value him. And just, having a guy like that, RJ, in the locker room, out there on the ice, teams love it. General managers love it. Front offices love it. Coaching staffs love it. And that's really why John Hayden's out there. He is filling a role that the Kraken needed filled after last season.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you hear the guys in CV talk about him too. And they miss him right now as well.
Definitely.
He's just such a well-liked guy everywhere that he goes. And you see that even on his former NHL teams too. Everyone happy that he's back. And I think it really does help to just have genuinely good guys like that in the room at any level of hockey, as long as they've got the skill to hang and, and to not be a liability. And I think Hayden certainly is in that category. It's just great to have him in the room. And so, I mean, I know, even our photographer, Jen, because she visits CV more often, you tell us how great a guy Hayes is. And it's always so excited when he gets called up. That's just something you always want to hear about somebody you have on the team.
Oh, definitely. And then, get the coach Dan loves him and we sure do miss him. Oh yeah. I know Firebirds fans are definitely missing him. Edward. So Buffalo's just all around worse Kraken, lol. Everything but goal scoring. Go figure.
Yeah, and when we get to the end of the season, I have another Kraken Sabres comparison to make, but now is not the time.
Yeah, don't love that hearing that.
Sorry,
guys. Who's your comp for Kton? It's an interesting one. Now, RJ, I'm gonna say a name just because I'm trying to think of centermen who are maybe not great skaters, but are able to play a very responsible two-way game. And then also at times were thought of as being too small for their role. Okay. There's like very few that like kind of come to mind, but one of them is somebody that I know you like very much. And I am hesitant to even say his name, but I'm going like, I don't even like to say this as a comp for him because their play styles are so different, but like Joe Pavelski.
Let's go. I don't know that I fully like see that. If you lay it out like
Joe
that,
because as you watch them, you don't.
Right? No, you would never think. Yeah, and so as you were saying that too, I was like, is he going to say Pavelski? Like, because at first you see my worried expression. Where I was like, where are you going with this? But then, then when you said it was someone I liked, I don't know. I mean, all the points, I can't argue with you on a single bullet point.
Yeah, but I would never
I'm
say
trying
that
to pick
plays
this
like
apart.
Pavelski.
But no, watching them, no, I would never say that.
No, I wouldn't either. But like it's the same like profile kind of coming into the league. It's tough though, because there's just not a lot of guys that are that way. Like that's what made Pavelski in a lot of ways so unique, was like there wasn't a lot of kind of smaller side, poor skating centers that were like also really good.
Yeah. And Fusion was saying Kton is flashier than Pavs. I would agree with that.
Definitely.
And Lindsay, like Kton has those silky mitts. He does, but I mean Pavelski has, I mean, you could argue the silkiest mitts in the league when he was playing, just in a different way.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
It's
Because
a
I mean,
really
obviously
tough one.
the tips are, you know, and that's something
Yeah.
the Berkeley Kton I don't think he can't do.
No.
And that
Nobody
nobody
can do
really would
that.
do at Joe
Yeah.
Pavelski's level. That's just a unique one-off thing for him. I mean, although, you know, silky mitts, just search Joe Pavelski shootout goal and you can see the mitts on Pavs there. But yeah, it's still, I don't know. I can't really fully wrap my head around that one. I can't figure this out like live on the fly.
I know. I'm literally going roster by roster here, trying to find like somebody that I would say is a comp, because I've struggled with this on the prospect chats. Like Berkeley Kton doesn't have an easy comp because it's just one of those things that is, you know, ultra smart playmaking player, you know, sees the ice so well, but for whatever, you know, doesn't have size. But we're so used to thinking of guys without size as being, you know, fast, and he's just not. You know what I mean? Like he's just not that guy. He's not one of those guys that's gonna like dart in and out of different sections. I mean, maybe like Nick Suzuki.
Oh, Nick Suzuki, maybe. I think that feels like a better fit
That
from
feels
having
like
watched the
better.
two of
Yeah,
them, right?
it feels better. But I think of Suzuki as being more of a north-south guy, whereas Berkeley Catton's going to pick you apart from the perimeter with his playmaking. So like I don't even know that it really works that way. Like I said, this has been an ongoing struggle for me. The bottom line is Berkeley Kton has a profile and a makeup that is not normal. It's not unique. It is unique, I mean, and
Yeah.
so it makes it hard to you know, have a comp for a guy like that.
Yeah. I think I need to watch more Berkeley Kton. And this is where I feel like we work well together. I mean, you are the, you know, the brains
Yeah.
of the scouting operation, but like, I'll just use my, you know, kind of encyclopedic knowledge of just all the random players I've seen over the last 20 years. And I'll throw 5 names at you and 4 of them will be head scratchers. And one of them will be like, there might be something there.
Yeah.
That's how we usually do it.
That is how we usually do it. So we'll, you know, hopefully the Chiefs end up playing one of, you know, Everett or Seattle or really Portland, and we go on a nice little road trip down to Portland and we get to watch them play there. That's good.
Yeah. That would, hey, you know what? That'd be a fun road trip with you. I would do that.
It would be. Fusion Mix saying, how about Seth Jarvis? A less unhinged Seth Jarvis. I say this with affection. Jarvis rocks. Yeah, he does rock. I don't know. I think that Jarvis has more of like a nose for the net kind of play style than Kton does. I like where you're
I agree with
going.
that. Yeah.
You know, certainly from like a build standpoint and everything, but like I don't know that Berkeley Kton's a 30 goal scorer. Like I don't know that his game is that at the NHL level.
No, I think he's ultimately going to kind of settle and be a playmaker. He will be able to score, but I don't think, you know, 30 is realistic. He's going to rack up the assists more than that.
Yeah, he's going to be like a 50 assists a year kind of guy, like if everything hits. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, but looking forward to it for sure. I guess we'll do like a very quick last call here, super quick if you can get something in that you know we haven't talked about. Otherwise, I mean, slow small guys with good hockey sense makes me think of Zach Benson from Julia. I mean, in some ways, yes, like not wrong.
Yeah, see, there's lots of like guys who can you maybe fit those bullet points, but none of them feel like a perfect comp for Kton. I think that's just the difficulty of it.
No, and I don't want to link us to the Buffalo Sabres anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Either. Just
yeah,
saying.
save some for me.
Yeah, no, that's there. Anything else from this game, RJ, that you wanted to talk about that you didn't get a chance to because you had to step away for a little bit?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, you guys didn't end up talking about I just wanted to say I agree with what I'm sure you did say about like the Alexiak stuff at the end, where it was just kind of game management. Just kind of going down the list there. Trying to think what else. I don't know. I guess
Joey is good.
Yeah, Joey was good. I mean, this thing I already said that I felt like it got lost in this game, just how good Joey was. And I was trying to check on Natural Stat Trick too, like just how many goals saved above expected he has in the last like 2 games. Okay, 1.36 in this one and like 4 last game. So that's just a great run for him. I do wonder when we'll, I mean, well, no, I don't wonder when we'll see Grubauer next. It'll be on one of these two on the back to back. But I was hoping to see Grubauer in one of these last two. But given how Joey played, like, I don't know. Hard to blame them given the results were this.
Yeah.
And then I do want to, I guess, just plug the mailbag for the Deep Dive podcast. Because again, lots of great questions here in the chat. Some that, is a little hard to answer in this post-game format where we're doing it live and we just have less than an hour. But we are doing a mailbag for the next Deep Dive podcast on Monday. So just get your questions in by tomorrow night. And you can do that on social media. I've done it as a post on Instagram, a post on Twitter, or you can email us at contact@emeraldcityhockey.com, or, DM us anywhere as well. You guys, if you're watching this, you know how to get a hold of us. So send your questions in because we're looking forward to answering some of those on the podcast.
Yeah, no, and we've already gotten lots of good questions too. I'm really excited for this week's episode and definitely looking forward to it. Yeah, just to, a day or so here to get those questions in. Really appreciate that. As you do that, kind of one more shout out to Queen Anne Beer Hall for sponsoring podcasts like they have, all season long, sponsoring the post-game lives. Really appreciate their continued support. I mean, it was so much fun doing these watch parties. I think we got to find a way to do like an NHL playoffs watch party at some point.
That would be fun.
Way.
I bet we could figure that out. There are enough playoff games. I bet we could figure that out. I mean, I know, like, I went to the beer hall to watch a lot of the cup finals last year too. Hanging out with us and Jeff Baker, and it was a great time, with everybody. So I think we could probably do that again this year. And I mean, man, it's been so long since I've talked about the burger of the month, because we've been pumping up the watch parties and getting everyone ready for that. But I mean, here, I will mention it later. I'll probably do it to start off another post game here, but it's really interesting for those if you're a fan of McDonald's, if you like the Big Mac, but think, maybe could this be better? The burger of the month this month is the Big Smack. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions. I mean, it looks look at that. It looks like a Big Mac, but just better. So if that interests you, go ahead and give it a try. I know it interests me. Give it a try at Queen Anne Beer Hall.
Yep, definitely. That is great read. It has been a minute since we've talked about that. I'm glad you brought that up. That is good.
I could not resist any longer. I know we're over the hour mark, but I just had to talk about it. It's been 5 days, Dylan, that I have not gotten to talk about the burger of the month. I needed to.
No, it is definitely great. Definitely good stuff there. Appreciate that. Just to quickly answer Kat's question there, we're going to talk draft talk soon. Yes. Once the Kraken season's over, I'll transition over into more draft stuff. And then certainly once draft lottery happens, we know where the Kraken are picking, we'll go super heavy into it all. So it is definitely coming there for sure. Appreciate everybody for joining us this evening. Another shout out to the Kraken for the big win, and we will see you all next time.